Hi, I'm Andrew Malkov. I started programming when I was 12 years old. After a while, I created my first game, and this game is exactly what you will make throughout my series. If you watched my previous video, you already have your development environment set up, so everything is ready to start writing your first program. And this is the main topic for this video. You will learn fundamentals of programming as well as basics of how to work with Visual Studio. If you will follow the steps from this video, at the end you will have your first program, you will know how to find, copy and run it. In my next video, you will learn how to work with variables, so subscribe to my channel to not miss it. In programming, everything starts with an idea. I need to know exactly what the computer is supposed to do for me. Before I write the first line of code, I need to know what result I want to get at the end. Then, as a programmer, I need to write a program using one or another programming language. A program is a collection of instructions that will be executed by a computer to perform specific tasks in order to obtain the desired result. I will write my program in a programming language called C#. When I have finished writing the program, I need to run it to make sure everything is working as expected and I'm getting the correct result. Alright, the process is clear now. So, what result I want to get? Like every good game, you need a good splash screen, or in other words, welcome screen. This is important because this is the first thing that users will see when they launch your game. So, let's make it. First, I'm going to create a console application. But wait, what is a console application? It is a program that can't do anything, but it's designed to be used via a text-only computer interface named console. A user typically interacts with a console application using a terminal. In Windows, you have several terminals available out of the box. There are CMD, which is the default command line interpreter, and PowerShell, which is a scripting language, but it also contains more advanced command line shell. These are great terminals, but I would strongly recommend to use Windows terminal. It does not come with Windows by default, so you have to install it separately, but it's an easy process. By this link, you can find the instructions how to do that. You may be confused now. First, I talk about a game and its splash screen, and then about a text-only program. Yes, that's right. You will make a game that will output everything as a text. But please, don't underestimate the capabilities of a console application. Making a game with a rich graphical interface is beyond the scope of this course. And the main goal of it is to teach you C#. And a console application is the best option to focus on the language itself. So, to create a console application, I have to start Visual Studio. I can do this by just push the Windows button on my keyboard and then typing Viz. It's enough to find it. And this is the Visual Studio 2019. I click on it and it started. So I click on Create New Project and it shows me the list of predefined templates. To minimize this list, I click that I'm interested in C# only, and for all project types, I click that I'm interested in the console project type. And I have only two items left. The first item is a console app using the .NET Core, and the second one is the console app using the .NET Framework. The .NET Framework is the old full .NET Framework, yeah, and of course we are focused on the new technologies and we selected the .NET Core. I click console app .NET Core and then click Next. On this screen, I need to enter the project name, location and solution name. For the project name, I will enter Epic Battle. So this is the name for my game. Visual Studio will create a folder with this name on your disk and place all the files related to this project inside. The next thing that I need to specify is a location. Location is the path on your disk where Visual Studio will create a project folder. So I will click on the three dots and I will click on my username, and here I will create a new folder and I will call this folder programming. I press enter, I open this folder and I select this folder. The next thing that I need to enter is the solution name. A solution is a container of one or more projects. And there are two options. You can place your solution file and the project file into the same directory. For this, we need to click this checkbox. But I don't want to do this. By default, Visual Studio will create the folder named as your solution name on the provided location, so inside my programming folder. It will place the resolution file that will have a name that you specified in your solution name and extension SLN. Then, Visual Studio will create another folder inside a solution folder that will be named as your project name. It will place there a project file that will have a name that you specified in the project name and extension csproj. And then it will place all the needed files for that project in this folder. I will keep everything as it is now and I click Create. Now, Visual Studio created everything needed for my program using the predefined template for a console application. Let's explore the main windows of Visual Studio. The first one and the most important is Solution Explorer. In this window, you can view and manage the projects and solution and their associated items and files. As you can see in Solution Explorer, Visual Studio created a solution and a project for me. A solution, despite its name, it's not an answer. It's simply a container for one or more related projects, along with build information, Visual Studio window settings, and any miscellaneous files that aren't associated with a particular project. A project is your application. It contains all files needed for your program. Those files can include source code, icons, images, data files, and so on. A project also contains compiler settings and other configuration files that might be needed by various services or components that your program communicates with. The second one is a code editor. It takes up most of the screen for a reason. As a programmer, you will spend most of your time in this window writing your programs. The code editor is an advanced text editor which use IntelliSense. It can automatically suggest you what to type next or to show you your mistakes even before the compilation process. If you want to change a file, you have to open it in Editor first. To do that, you just double-click on this file in Solution Explorer. For example, I can close this program CS file and Epic Battle file. So as you can see, the editor is empty now. If I want to open my program CS file, I just double-click on it and it's open. As you can see, in our program, we have only one file, which is program CS. Let's look at its content. The first line of the program starts with using, and then it specifies the system. It will allow you to use types defined in system namespace without typing the fully qualified names of these types. For example, if I remove this line, Visual Studio will start complaining about the console type, that it doesn't understand it. To solve this problem, I can type system in front of it. Then Visual Studio is happy and doesn't complain anymore. The problem with this approach that if I need to use the console again, for example, I can copy this line, then each time when I want to use console, I need to type system with a dot in front of it. To save your time for typing, you can use using on top of your program, and then you can use all the types from this namespace without its name in front of these types. So let's return everything back. I remove using from this line, and then I will type on top using system and then semicolon. Please remember that each statement or line in C# finishes with semicolon. The second line of the program is empty. It's just to add a visual separation between using part and the rest of the program itself. You can add as many spaces as you like at any place in your program. For example, here, or here, or here. But use a common sense, of course, to add them. The main purpose of spaces and line breaks is to make your program easier to read, but not harder. So I return everything back. So on the next line, I declare a namespace with the name of the epic battle. The namespace is used to define a scope that contains a set of related objects. It can be used to organize code elements and to create globally unique types. By default, Visual Studio uses a project name as a name of the namespace. After the declaration, there is an opening curly brace. In C#, curly braces defines a block of code. For each opening curly brace, there must be a closing curly brace. As you can see, it's on bottom. To make a block of code more readable, you should use indentation. For example, I can remove the indentation now. And as you can see, it's really hard to understand and read. You can add an indentation by just simply typing the 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, or by just pressing Tab button on your keyboard. You can also select a block with a Shift and then push the Tab button, and as you can see, all the block will be moved. Here I also want to add indentation, so I press the Tab button on my keyboard. So on the 5th line of code, I define a class program. And on the 7th line of code, I define a method of this class called main. I'm not going to talk about classes and methods right now. It will be topic for my next videos. But you have to remember that for every console application, you must have the class name program and the method named main inside of this class. It is an entry point that will be used by .NET Runtime to start your program. So, your program starts at the first line inside the block of the main method and ends after the last line. It means that here I have a program which actually contains one line of code. This is the line number 9. Let's look at it in more details. Console is the type from the system namespace that represents the console window. WriteLine is a method of console type that prints a line of text to that console window. Inside the parental thesis, there is a text "Hello World," which actually is a parameter that I provided to method WriteLine. Every text in a C# program must be enclosed in the double quotes. As you understand now, if you execute this program, it will just print "Hello World" in the console window. The process of executing the program is straightforward. You click a button Start and your program starts. But as a programmer, you need to understand what's going on behind the scenes. All the instructions that the computer executes are actually executed by the Central Processing Unit, or in short, CPU. It doesn't understand any programming languages. It can only understand the machine code, which is a strictly numerical language, and I tended to run as fast as possible. While it is possible to write programs directly in low-level machine code, managing individual bits and calculating numerical addresses and constant manually is tedious and error-prone. For this reason, modern programmers are very rarely use the machine code. Instead, they use high-level programming languages like C#. But if the CPU can't understand it, we need to have something to do the translation. In programming, this is done by a compiler. And the translation process is called compilation. In fact, .NET has two steps compilation process. First, your C# program is compiled into Microsoft Intermediate Language, or in short, MSIL, which is a CPU-independent set of instructions that can be efficiently converted to native machine code later. To compile C# into MSIL, you use the .NET compiler platform called Roslyn. The result of the compilation is a compiled program that are stored on the disk and contains one or multiple files. To run this program on a computer, you need to have .NET Common Language Runtime, or in short CLR, installed. It is already installed in your development environment, but if you want to run your program on another computer, .NET Runtime should be installed there as well. When you execute your program, CLR will load it from the disk into the memory. Then, it will use just-in-time compiler to run the second step of the compilation to compile your program from Microsoft Intermediate language to a native machine code for your particular CPU. And when in memory compilation will be done, CLR will start executing the instructions from your program one by one, beginning from the defined entry point. When all of the instructions will be executed, your program will be exited and unloaded from the memory. Why do we need to have two-step compilation process in .NET? After the first step of the compilation, you, as a programmer, will get your compiled program in intermediate language, which is a CPU or platform agnostic. You can copy this program and execute it on Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. During the execution process, this program will be compiled to the native machine language for a specific platform and CPU. As a result, you have only one program that can be run effectively everywhere, of course, where the .NET Runtime is installed. I know, this process is not an easy one to understand in the beginning, but don't worry if it's not fully clear now. I will do my best to make it more and more clearer throughout my videos in this series. Alright, you know how it works in theory now. Let's try it in practice. Before I run my program, I want to change the targeted framework for my application. To do that, I go to my project, I right-click on it, and select Properties. As you can see, by default, the Visual Studio set the target framework to .NET Core 3.1. I want to change it to .NET 5.0, which is the latest framework. I click Save, and I close this Properties window. You can run your program by multiple ways. You can click green play button in the toolbar. Or you can open menu Debug and click on Start Debugging. Or you can right-click on your project and in the context menu select Debug and Start New Instance. But the easiest and most commonly used way is to just press F5 on your keyboard. All of these options will start the debugging session that you will use to troubleshoot your program. If you want to start your program without debugging, you can open the menu Debug and click on Start Without Debugging. Or just simply press and hold Ctrl, and while you are holding it, press F5 on your keyboard. So I will run my program by just pressing F5 on my keyboard. And as you can see, my program is executed and printed Hello World on the screen. So you know now how to run your program within a Visual Studio, but how you can run your program without Visual Studio? And again, there are multiple ways. First of all, you have to go to the location where your compiled program is stored. To do that, you can right-click on your project and select Open Folder in File Explorer. I click on it, and it will open the File Explorer in the project folder. Inside this folder, the Visual Studio created two folders, Bin and Obj. You can easily remove this folder, and the next time when the Visual Studio will build, which actually means compile your program, it will create them again. So let's try that. I will just press Delete button on my keyboard and those folders are disappeared. So I return to Visual Studio, I right-click on my project and click on Build, which will actually instruct the Visual Studio to compile my project. And it's done. I return back to the File Explorer. As you can see, the folders Bin and Obj have been created again. Okay, Visual Studio will store your compiled program inside the bin folder, which actually stands for binaries. Let's go there. I open the bin folder, I open the debug folder, I open the .NET 5.0 folder, and here is my program. As a result of the compilation process of a console application, you will have executable file with extension exe, as well as one or many dynamic libraries. You may not see the extensions of some files inside your File Explorer. To change that, you can open View tab and then click on Options. In the Open It window, open View tab and then inside the Advanced Settings, uncheck Hide Extensions for known file types. So I uncheck it and click Apply and OK. So right now, as you can see, we start seeing the exe extension for the application files. So to run your program, just double-click on exe file. As you can see, the console window appeared and immediately disappeared. This happened because File Explorer opened the console window, then it executed my program, which printed Hello World, and immediately exited, and then console window was closed. Everything happened so fast that you can't even see it. To fix this, I will stop my program until I press Enter, and only after that the program will exit. So I return to Visual Studio and I add a new line of code, which is console.readline. This line will do the job. It will stop and wait until I press Enter. So I compile my application again, right-click on the project and select Build, and then return back to the File Explorer and run it again. And now, as you can see, the console window is not closed. We can see now that my program actually printed Hello World, and then it waits for the Enter. If I push an Enter on my keyboard, the console window will disappear. Because of the previous behavior, running a console application from the File Explorer is not the best option. The better one is to use a terminal. I prefer to use a Windows terminal. But before I run the Windows terminal, I want to remove my last change, because it's not needed if you use a terminal. So I go back to the Visual Studio and I remove just one line. I build my application again, so right-click on the project and select Build. By the way, to build an application, you can also use your keyboard. You just need to press and hold Ctrl and then press B. It's the same as right-click on your project and click on Build, but using the keyboard is much faster. So now the build is finished and I can go back to the File Explorer. I right-click on the empty space of the File Explorer, like here, and then I click Open in Windows Terminal. It will open the Windows Terminal and set the current path to the folder where my program is stored. You can also do this manually. So I open a new terminal tab by clicking on a plus button on top. As you can see, the current folder is C users Ian Malkov. Now I go back to the File Explorer and actually copy the path here, Ctrl C, and then I return back to the Windows terminal and type command cd, and then I just push the right mouse button to paste what I just copied, and I click Enter. And now, as you can see, my current folder changed to .NET.5 folder, as well as I have on my previous terminal. Then I want to see what files I have there. So I just type ls command, which is list, and I see that I have my epic battle exe file. So to run my game, I just need to type dot, then the slash, and then the name of my file, which is epicbattle.exe. And I click Enter. And now I can see the Hello World. The easiest way how to run it without typing the full program name is just to use initial letters, like for example EP, and then pressing the tab button on your keyboard until your exe file will not be there. So I just press tab 3 times and I see Epic Battle exe and I click enter. And again, hello world is printed. Now you know how to find and execute your program. But what to do if you want to copy your program and show it to your friend on his computer? To do that, I return to the File Explorer. And this is your program. Yeah, you just need to copy all these files to the destination location. So I select all these files with a shift and I right click on it and say copy. Then, for example, I go to my C drive, I open it in a new window and I create a new folder here. My game. I open this folder and I paste the files. And now, again, if I copy the path and I go to my Windows terminal and say cd, which stands for change directory, and I insert this path, then again, my path will be changed to this folder. Then I can type EP, so the initial letters of my game. I click tab once, again tab, and as you can see, it showed me the Epic Battle exe, and I click enter. And it prints the hello world again. Of course, it happened that your friend may not have a Windows terminal installed, but it's not an issue, because if you remember, I told you that Windows has terminal out of the box. To open the terminal, you can press and hold Shift or your keyboard, and at the same time press the right mouse button on the empty space of the File Explorer. Let's try to do that. So I return to the File Explorer and I just press Shift, I hold it, and at the same time I click right mouse button on my mouse. And then I see Open PowerShell window here. If I click it, then we will have the PowerShell window. It's another terminal in Windows. And if I type here again the first letter of my game, EP, and again use tab 1, 2, 3 times, I click enter and I see again hello world. So I played a lot with hello world, but it's not something that I've planned to have as a splash screen for my game. Let's fix it. I return to my program in Visual Studio. And the first thing that I'm going to do is to draw a draft of my splash screen. To not have any issues with the compilation, I will do that inside a command block. The commands are very important in programming. A command is a programmer-readable explanation or annotation in the source code of a computer program. Programmers add them with the purpose of making the source code easier to other programmers to understand. Sometimes you need to make changes in the code which you wrote a few months ago, and good commands can remind you what you did and in some cases why you did it. Commands are generally ignored by compilers that allow you to write everything you want inside a command. To write a single line command in C#, you can just type // and then anything that you want to say. For example, this is the beginning. So if you type // everything rest on this line will be a comment that by default colored green in Visual Studio. You can place your commands at the beginning of the line, as I did, or you can also place your commands after the line with a quote saying that it will print hello world. So one-line commands are good, but sometimes you want to have multiple line commands. To start a command block, you just type a / and then asterisk. To finish a command block, you just type it in opposite order. So you type asterisk and then /. Now, everything that you put inside will be treated as a comment. So I can type something here, something there, something here. So it's actually the multi-line command, yeah? So you can type whatever you want, as big as you would like to have. So to make a rough design of my welcome screen, I will use a command block. You already know that the console application is limited to text output only, but you can make amazing drawings with different characters. Inside the command block, I can play now with characters and spaces. I want to draw the name of my game, which is the Epic Battle. I will use the classical approach to write a text using 5 columns and 5 rows for every character. I will use asterisk as my character, but you can apply your creativity and use any characters or even a combination of characters you want. If you can't find anything you want in the standard characters that you can type on your keyboard, you can use character map to find what you need. To run the character map, press Windows key on your keyboard and just type CH, and immediately it will see it founds the character map. I click on character map. So here you can find all the possible characters. If you scroll almost completely down, you can find interesting characters like full block, light shade, medium shade, or the dark shade. So it's actually up to your imagination what to choose. But when you find the characters that you want or multiple characters, then you just click on the button select. For example, I want to have this character, I want to have the next character, I click select again. I want to have the next character, I click select again, and I want to have, for example, the dotted circle. I click select. When I find all the characters that I want, I click copy. And then I just can return to Visual Studio and actually paste it, Ctrl V, and I can start playing with these characters inside my command block. Yeah, so you can add spaces. I can copy this character, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, yeah, to create a kind of drawings, if I like. But actually, I want to use asterisk character, and I start drawing Epic Battle using it. First, I'm going to draw letter E. So I remove everything inside this command block, and I start drawing. Again, it's a 5, 2, 5. Yeah, so the letter E will look like that. So it's 5 columns and 5 rows. Maybe one more here. Then I use just the 2 characters for a space. And then I draw the next letter, which is P. 4 here. Then I move to a new line. I draw again a new line. I draw it again. Then a new line. I draw it again. Remove my cursor. And I draw it again. So I have E and P. And then I continue the same way with all the letters. So I draw the same way letter I, then letter C, then the space, and then B, and A, and double T, and L, and finally the last letter E. It looks good now, but I want to add header on top and the footer on bottom. And I do the same, I just drawing with dashes. So I finish with my header, and I just want to move the letters a little bit. And I just copy my header to the bottom. And the last things that I want to add to my design are the version number of my program, the year, just to remember when I wrote my first program, the copyright sign, and my name. I want to have it below the footer. So I just click enter and type v1.0. It will be my version. Then the year is 2021. Then I add the copyright sign and my name. Then I want to move it to the right. And that's mainly it. I'm happy now with my rough design. I think it looks good. So I'm going to move to my program. To do that, I just copy everything from my comment block and paste it in my program. So I just go up and start selecting everything from the first line, holding the shift. Okay, I click Ctrl C and then I move up to my program. I remove everything that I have now inside my main method and then I paste my design, Ctrl V. When I paste something to my Visual Studio, the Visual Studio will try to format it. I don't want to do that for my text, so that's why I click Ctrl Z. And as you can see, now the Visual Studio complains. For example, here, the red underscore, and here and there. And it complains because it doesn't understand those commands. And of course it is valid, yeah, because this is not commands, this is just a text that I paste. So we already know how we can type the text to the console window. So we just need to add the console.writeLine in the beginning of each line. So let's do that. I will start with the first line, console.writeLine. Then I will open parental thesis and open my quote. Then at the end of the line, I will close my quote, close parental thesis and put semicolon. And the first line is ready. So I can do the same for the rest of the lines, but there is a better approach. So I copy everything, including quote, and I click Ctrl C, and I can select a block within the Visual Studio. To do that, I will press and hold Alt on my keyboard, and then press and hold left mouse button on my mouse. And I will just move the cursor down, holding these two buttons. So as you can see now, I selected the block, and right now, if I press Ctrl V, then you see it's inserted the copied text to all this line at the same time, which is much faster than type it manually. Then I just need to finish each line with the end symbols, and I just copy them and paste it to each line. And my last line is finished. So right now I can run my program to see the results. So I press F5 on my keyboard. And I see my design in live now. It looks good, but I miss a little bit the indentation on the left side of my text, as well as I want to add some indentation on top. Before I will add the indentation, I want to fix the right line, because if we specify the empty string, so in this case I can just remove my quotes completely. It will be the same. So then to add the indentation on top, I will copy the right line and I will insert it 3 times. So I will add 3 empty lines on top, and then I will start with my header. To add the indentation on left, I can use the special character, for example, the tabulation character that I can type using the backslash and then T. So this will be the tabulation. As you can see, the Visual Studio immediately show it that it's a special character with a color. And I can copy it to all the lines. Again, here we can select a block, holding the Alt and holding the left mouse button. I just move down my mouse and click Ctrl V, and it will insert this special character to all the line at the same time. And the same for those 2 lines, Ctrl V, and the last line, Ctrl V. So right now, if I run my program again, I press F5, and right now it looks much better. So we have the indentation on top, the indentation on left. Okay, good. But let's try to see how it looks in the terminal. So I switch to my terminal and I press the arrow up on my keyboard to just reveal the last command, and I click enter. It looks good, but I want to clear the screen before I type my welcome screen. So I just return to Visual Studio, and to clear the screen, I can again use the console type .clear. And now if I build my program, and I return back to my terminal and I run my program again. I press the arrow up on my keyboard. I click enter. As you can see now, the screen is cleared and my welcome screen printed on top. Good, but I missed some colors here. The console used by default the gray color, and I want to add more colors to my welcome screen. To do that, I return back to my Visual Studio. In the console, we can control two types of colors. The first type is a background color, and the second one is the foreground color. As you can guess, the background color controls the color of the backgrounds of my text within the console window, and the foreground color controls the text color within this window. And I want to play only with the foreground color. So I will start with my header. Before the first line of the header, I type console.foreground color equals. Then Visual Studio suggests me to type the console color, then I put the dot and I can see all the available colors within the console that I can use. So I'm going to use the dark gray and I put semicolon. This will be the color for my first line of my header. For the second line, I want to change my color to white. Okay, then I will do the same for my footer. So I just copied this line and insert it here. And then the next line, the last line of my footer will be the dark gray as well. And for the first line of my text, I use the gray color. Then on the next line, I want to use the cyan color. Then on the next line, again, the cyan color. Next line will be blue, which is actually my favorite color. And the last line will be blue as well. Now I can run my application to see how it looks like. I press F5 and I'm pretty much happy with my design. The only thing that left, I want to use another color for my version. I return to my Visual Studio. And now the task is a little bit harder because I don't want to change the color for the whole line. I just want to change it for a part. I can do this by splitting the write line commands to two. First command will be write and another command will be write line. The difference between write and write line is that write doesn't put the line break at the end of the line and the write line puts the line break. So I just copy this line and I paste it, so I have two identical lines. On the first line, I change the command from the write line to write, and then I remove everything after the version. So write line will continue after the version. It means that I need to remove everything, including the version. So now we split our line to two parts. This is the first part that will use a gray color, and this is the second part that will use a dark gray color. So I copy the line with the color, and for the first line I set the color gray, and for the second line I set the color dark gray. And now I press F5 to see the result. And now I'm happy. As you can see, we have definitely the different color for our version comparing to the rest of the line. So I just want to add some indentation on the bottom and my splash screen is finished. So I close this window and I add the empty write line after my version. Console.writeLine. And I copy this line and I paste it 2 times. So I have 3 line breaks after my version. I click F5 again. And now it looks even better. So the last thing that I want to see how it looks in the Windows terminal. So I switch to the Windows terminal I press arrow up on my keyboard to reveal the last command, and I click enter. And it looks great. So, my splash screen looks exactly as I want. I find it attractive and it represents my game very well. I just want to ask you to create your own splash screen. You can use different characters, styles, forms and colors, and even if you want, completely different name for this game. I'm so curious to see your amazing welcome screens, so please post a URL to your welcome screen image in the comment for this video. To share your image, you can use any image sharing websites like 500px, Flickr, Twitter, or even Facebook or Instagram, but in case of the last two, make sure your image publicly available. Right now, your program just outputs the information in the console window, but to make your game useful, it needs to be able to get the information from a user as well. And this is the topic for my next video, so please subscribe to my channel to not miss it. Thanks for watching and see you soon. So, everything is ready to start writing your first program. And this is the main topic for this video. You will Okay. To not do it one by one line. Hi, I'm Andrew Malta. I started programming when I was 12 years. In my next video, I will learn how to work with variables. Yeah, I will learn. Okay, good. Again.